Good. So now all we need to do is use this information to create objects of type currency data and keep appending them to this array. That's what we'll do. Exchange rates dot append and the new element. So the new element is of this type here, currency data, and it is going to, we'll just call the default initializer. The ID is the key and the rate is rate dot double value. And usual errors, it's going to say that because this exchange rates is being used inside a closure, we must reference, whenever we want to use it, we must specify that it's from the self object. So just say fix. And it will put a self dot in front. And here, just in case there is an error parsing JSON. In the catch. Okay, so now this variable exchange rates, which is being published, is getting modified here. We are getting that part, right? How do we use it in our content view? That's the next question we are going to answer. So understand what is going on here before we go there. We created a publisher object using the data task publisher method of URL session. And then we created a subscriber using the sync method of this. So what it does is it creates the subscriber, and within this, these are the handlers. So when it completes the request, this is called, and the publisher always emits a value, which is whatever information it received as a part of the data task. And that comes here, and that is where we are populating our exchange rates object. So Harry, going back to your question, see, we are not even aware in this code that there is a view. We don't need to do anything. Whereas using data task with the storyboard method, we would have to actually send a method to the view, somehow connected to this part. So the combined framework is doing that for us in the background.
I get I don't know if that's a warning. Like if you run your code right now, I think you'll get it too. It says that SwiftUI publishing changes from background thread is not allowed. Oh, you don't get it.
I didn't get it. Can you show me?
Sure. Can you show me your content view first? Let me see if I in content view observed object. Yeah. And yeah, I'm still getting. And can I see the other file again? Currency data model.
I'm getting that error as well.
You're getting two? Okay, yeah.
Okay. You have a data task publisher here, not data task.
Yes, I just copied the code from there. It's a shared data task publisher for URL.
That's strange. Let's look at one of your codes.
Sure, so I'll share my screen.
Harry, you're getting that error as well?
I'm actually getting a new error. It's that observable object is unknown.
Okay, all right. We'll be able to fix these things just.
So it's printing the values.
Okay.
You guys can see the screen. But it says here publishing changes from background thread is not allowed. Make sure to publish values from the main thread via operators like receive on model updates.
Okay. receive value.
And my code, if you can see, so here, publish var.
Not published.
I don't know why you're not getting it. Hamza's
Yeah,
getting to.
the exact same code, right?
Yeah, like if Hamza is getting it, so that means like it should be exact same.
Two, and then this is in receive value. Okay. I think you may need to add another line of code, and let me just try to locate it. I think you need to explicitly tell it to do this on the main thread. Let me see if I can locate that. And see. I saw something like this. Okay. Let me share my screen again and you'll see what I'm talking about.
Sure.
Okay. So if you Google this, publishing changes from background thread is not allowed, etc., you will find that this is one of the results, and this is one of the suggestions that on the publisher, you add a dot receive on run loop dot main. So I'm going to add this and you can type it up as well. So right after print, you say dot receive. Okay, this is the wrong method. This is what you need to say here and try again after this. So what this does is that it is telling the data task publisher to receive any data on the main thread. And I'm not sure why it did not ask me to do this. I have no idea. For me, that seems to be implicit.
Yeah, I don't get it now.
You don't get it now? Okay. So this is what it was. So Harry, what about you? You said you're getting a different error. And Hamza, yours is also resolved with this line of code?
Yes, it's resolved now.
Okay. Let's see, Harry, if you want to tell us what you're facing.
Sorry, can you guys hear me?
Now we can, yeah.
Oh yeah, sorry, my bad. So can you show me your content wheel?
Yes. So this
Yeah,
has to be
observable object, right?
observed, not observable.
Yeah, observe the object.
The auto completion of the editor sometimes gives the wrong suggestion, and if you accept it,
No, it's I don't know. Let me just restart it. 'Cause I
okay.
know SwiftUI sometimes it just need a restart.
Yeah. Sometimes it does run into that issue.
Just give me 1 second.
See, while you do that, so now what we will do is this is publishing the new list for us, right? We'll use it here instead of printing 1 and 2 in our picker. We want to use what is being published. So let's do that. And for that, we need for each And what are we going to iterate over? We are going to iterate over currency data model dot exchange rates. And here we will receive, in the closure, we'll receive one argument, which is the element. Expects one argument, right? It's because I don't have an argument, it started immediately complaining. So we'll call it rate in, right? That completes our closure. Generic parameter ID could not be inferred. Explicitly specify the generic arguments. No, thank you. Okay, we'll fix that. What we want to do is we want to iterate over these all the elements of that array and add one text view for each one item, one view for each one of those. So we build our list of currencies, right? So I want to actually go back to the document and see what it is expecting here. Obviously, what we are providing, it does not seem to be quite happy with it. Okay. So I think I've pasted one of the links to you how to do this, how to build this one, right? This is the one we looked at earlier, how to make the picker work with an observable object. And what it is expecting is exactly what we have given it. Okay, I think I know what the problem is. See, it's in the declaration. I've declared it slightly differently. I've declared, I don't know what exactly the impact is, but here the fellow has just defined the type as an array of data center objects which are identifiable. That was the whole purpose of doing this identifiable, so that in this for each, it doesn't ask for all those things. It is asking explicit IDs and everything. So we need to go back and change our declaration. It is creating an object right here. So what I want you to do is change this. So just say that define its type and leave it empty. This is going to okay, let's see. Okay, build failed. Once again, build has failed. Missing argument parameter ID. Call. Okay, guys, I think I'm going to have to go back to the Swift documentation, the iOS documentation, and look at this. Why it is suddenly deciding that this is not identifiable.
So is that possible in our currency object? We probably have like a same ID.
Here? You mean we have a repetition?
Yeah, is that possible?
I don't think so. Like the data we are receiving, this, no, because this would happen. It's not even letting us compile. This is happening at runtime.
Okay.
So if there was a problem like that, it would compile and then later on give some argue with us about it at a later stage. To me, it is, I think that I have something unspecified in the code for each. Generic parameter ID could not be inferred. Okay, that's time for some troubleshooting. Let's Google this. Okay, I think it just wants what is your ID. I think we need to add this part. We need to be more explicitly like it is asking. So let's see if that fixes it. So it takes a second argument, which it is suggesting here, this one, right? As a fix. So we'll see what it does now. If that satisfies it. Type cannot list. Okay, do I have I declared it wrong? Have I called it a class instead of a struct? Or does it have to be a class? It is a struct. Okay. I think because it is declared as a variable, that is our problem. We are allowing it to change later on. By saying that it's a var, what we are saying is that the ID can be changed. So that may have been the problem. Even that is not the problem. Okay, let's start again. For each all right. Okay, I'm going to open my test project where I did this. Okay. That is our problem. I think I got it. See, this is a closure here, right? Actually, this here does not know what you're referring to unless you do a self. Interesting. Okay, I have a running version of the same thing that we are trying to do. We have an observed object, and this is what it is taking. I'm completely puzzled here. You guys are getting the same error as I am?
Well, I'm not
Yes.
getting that compilation error.
You're not?
No, I'm not getting it.
And your code looks just the same?
Same, but inside my for each, I just added a text.
Okay. Rate.id. Oh, so it is giving us the wrong message. You must have a text inside, and the message goes away.
It seems like.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so see,
it's working now. I can retrieve the rates. I just wrote whatever you have written here. So I just wrote rates dot rate, and it's working.
perfect. So that's it. So the message that the
Yeah, I've
compiler
heard like
is
Swift
giving us,
UI gives like sometimes incorrect messages and gives a
yeah,
wrong
I mean,
position as well.
you saw how much time
Yeah.
we spent trying to fix something based on what it was telling us, but really the problem was something else.
Yeah, it's working right now.
But for
Well,
me,
this is
the weights are not populating.
they're not populating. Ah, that's another thing that I will show you what is going on with that. This
Okay.
is another Swift UI quirk. We will need to fix that. So let's just add this here, rate.id. Okay. So this is what is happening with you, Hamza, right? You're getting a blank.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. This also during my testing, I ran into this, and then I was puzzled as to sometimes it happens, if you run it 10 times, maybe once or twice you will actually see the list.
Why it's not happening with me? Like I can see the results.
Yes, yes, because it's random.
Oh, it's random.
It's random. And the way to make it not random, the one way to make it force the refresh. What's happening is that it's receiving the data here. It's receiving the data here, but it is not. Uh, how can we confirm that? I have a code here that confirms that it is receiving the data. You can print something somewhere. It receives the data, that much I know, and it does not refresh the picker. So that is our problem, that it is receiving it but not. So updating the picker.
Uh, I have a question there. Like when we were using that published variable, I thought in our picker we might have to use a dollar sign.
Okay, so that is another good question. So published variables, we don't use a dollar sign. We use the dollar sign for state variables.
Okay.
And the state variables, they communicate within the same object.
Mhm.
When something changes, that's the next thing we are going to look at.
Yeah, what I learned is dollar sign is for two-way binding. So if you just want to receive the information, then you don't use, but since state you update it as well. So if you want to read and write, then you use a dollar sign. But if you're just reading it, then you don't have to use a dollar sign. But state, because you always write, so you have to use a dollar sign.
So state variables allow that. And that is how we will look at when the selection changes, what to do with that selection. That's what we want to do. Let's fix the picker first. So this for each in picker doesn't update. This is our exact problem. And the solution is very simple, is to add an ID to the picker. And the ID can be any object. We can use the new object, new array as the ID. So what it does is anytime that array changes, it forces the picker to update. So right before the frame, you can go with dot ID and specify the same thing, the currency model dot exchange rates as the ID. And both of you also might want to do that, do this, Shahrukh and Harry, because without this, you're not guaranteed that your list will refresh. So we've got this right. You got it working, Hamza?
I'm checking it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's working now.
Yeah. So, this whole thing I thought was Swift UI. I don't know what the intentions are, but I'm finding as I'm using it, I'm finding that there are lots of quirks. Like, the error message was wrong, and then why do you need to do this dot ID? It should be intelligent enough to do it itself, right? So anyway, let's put that aside. I'm sure because it's so new, all these things are there. Within a year or two, they would have ironed out many of these issues. So now we have this, and you see in our picker, we are saying that the selection, and this is what it is initially selecting, is the first value. Instead, let's say we want to store the selection and initialize it to a certain value. So for that is what we'll use a state variable. So let's define one called from currency, and let's call it US dollar. And we'll define one called to currency, and we'll call it Canadian dollar. So it will initialize as these values, from and to currency. And to have that two-way binding, what you want to do now is you want to use dollar from currency here. Okay, and it's complaining. It doesn't like that in a closure we are using without making it explicit. So just go self dot from currency and to currency. So what this picker has now done is it's created that two-way binding. So it will initialize to whatever we have initialized the value to. And anytime we change the selection in the picker, these values will keep changing. Right? So let's say this from currency and to currency in our text, what we had written, let's change it to self dot dollar from currency. I don't know if I need to be explicit here in terms of self dot, but I've already done it, so we'll leave it like that. And not convert, use wrapped. Okay, just go with dollar from currency. No, it doesn't like that. It wants me to use wrapped value instead.
Actually, I think you don't need the dollar sign.
Yeah, it's saying you don't need dollar sign because you're just printing it here.
Because we are not, oh yeah, we are not binding it here.
And you need self.
Yeah. So because this is not going to change it, you don't need the dollar sign. It's just, yeah. Perfect. So now when we run it, as we change the value in the picker, we expect to see these changing. So we are getting closer and closer to where we want to go. And now we want to print the rate, right? So all we have to do is we have to divide the from currency rate that is stored in these exchange rates object by the to currency rate stored in it. And we'll be good to go. That's all there is to it. self dot currency data model dot exchange rates. So what we want is we want to retrieve its value for that ID. This is the syntax. You specify that this is the ID, and this errors you ignore until we will close the enclosed string here. Self dot currency data model Okay, I have some syntax error here. Okay, because I closed it in the wrong place. Unterminated string literal. But it is terminated, man. What we're trying to do is the same thing we did by printing the currencies. We want to use those values and just get the exchange rates and print that number right there in the same field. Okay. I'm going to make my life easier here, and I'm going to create another text field and put it in that. Okay. That was the problem, too many brackets. So I've added another text.
I think it's better like if you just write all of this without text and then you just put it inside, then it's easier to see.
Yeah, you're right. So because then it gives us all the completion and everything.
Yeah, so it will complete, and because like Swift gives weird errors, so if you just remove the text and write that in plain.
Yeah. Self dot this. Okay. I think this might itself be enough. Okay, and this error will come unable to closure type. Failed. So this is what we have. What we want is we want to divide. Oh, that's my problem. I don't have a closing bracket here. So I have this here, the currency, the exchange rate for the from currency and the exchange rate from the to currency. I'm dividing one by the other. And what I want is I want this to be displayed in the same thing. So we'll do that. And now how about this? Have you got it working, any of you?
It still gives me a problem even if I put it. It gives me a problem like if I just write if you just write the first line without the division and paste it outside the self currency, it still gives me, because it cannot find ID for some reason.
Okay.
So if you try the first one and just copy it, and
it's possible that we don't even need to be that specific. Okay, it does not need the argument label, and this is the problem. It's an array, so we just specify the ID in square brackets. Okay, I thought that it being an identifiable, this is how we would do it, but it wants us to just treat it like an array, normal array, and get rid of the labels and don't have any space. Okay, I think this is going to take us somewhere now.
I think that array is an array of object. Shouldn't we like find the exact object that we need to take and then do the calculation?
So because it is an identifiable, it allows us to work with it like this, Hamza. The ID
Okay.
can be used as a key.
But
No.
exchange rates is an array of currency objects.
Yes, that's true. So we need to get that object and get the rate, this value from it.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Mm-hmm. What is its problem here? No exact matches in call to subscript. Okay, so we'll do what we did before. We'll leave that there. And this one here, I have created a separate one, and because it is a standalone thing, we don't need to enclose it in any of this business. Okay, so I added another text field, and I'm just dividing this by from currency, and from this we need to get the rate. We need to divide the rate, one rate by the other. Value of type string to expected argument type int. All right, I'm going to do something here. What do I have here? Okay, bear with me, guys. I'm going to do the exact same thing I did in my testing, and it seems to work at that time. I don't know why it's not working now. Network call dot exchange rates. Oh, okay. All right. So the problem is, I figured out. What I had to do was to make this work. This identifiable object, it lets us create a lets us use it in the for each. So we have the exchange rates, and I in fact went ahead and sorted it. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this syntax, but I can talk about it next time, how to do sorting and how to specify what parameters, what property of a class to use to sort objects of that class that are in an array. But what I ended up doing at that point was, I think I struggled with what I'm already struggling with again. So in this, the model, I had another published variable, which was the purpose of which was only to be used in the calculation. This was not identifiable. This is not hashable, codable, nothing. It is just the same information as this, but it made it easier to just access it for calculations. Maybe possible to actually use just this also, even in for each, but I could not figure that out. So what I ended up doing was just what we are doing. We're creating an array of this currency rate objects, and then another one, the same thing, I kept it in a separate array and used that in the calculation. So let's do that. I'm going to take it up to that point and then we will stop. It might take us a couple more minutes. So what we want here is we'll create another published variable for calculation, and it is basically a dictionary, string to double values. We'll just define it, and that is what we will use. Okay, I have to actually initialize it, otherwise it says that the error you will see this error, self captured before all members were initialized. This will happen when you have a variable declared like this, which is left hanging without any initialization. So once you create it here, that error will go away. So exchange rate for calculation is what we will use in our actual calculation. So we'll do this here again. The same thing we did, self dot exchange rate for calculation, and this time we are just going to use the key and specify the rate like this. So this, to me, what I have done, it seems like a workaround. If you guys find the proper way of doing it without having to have a separate array, feel free to do some investigation, and then we will look at that. Self.from currency. And the same thing we'll do here. We'll use dot exchange rate for calculation object here. Okay, and this is probably complaining that these are optional values. We're just, for now, we'll take a shortcut and we'll force them to be unwrapped. And this, again, this has some issues. What if one of them is not defined? What if, the network call fails? Then this is 0 by 0 or something like that. And this, we may need to put the whole thing, we may have to wrap it in another round bracket. I think this is it. This should make it work and show us the values that we are looking for.
Can you show the published one again?
Mhm.
The other file?
Yeah.
Let's see.
So this we defined as just a dictionary, string to double.
Okay.
And what we do is where we are building our identifiable array, alongside we store values, the same values. And this is not, I wasn't very happy with it, but I didn't have enough time to investigate more. So you guys can look into it. If there is a way we can use the same array that we created for the for each, if it can be used in the calculation. But this is a workaround, it will do the job.
Okay.
Okay. And where are we? So here it is complaining that my build has failed. String interpolation. Okay, yeah. This is a simple one. I need this whole thing to be inside a string, otherwise string interpolation doesn't work. So now what we want to see, there is the other problem. Unexpectedly found nil, because it's trying to do this and it's getting a nil. So what, instead of exclamation, let's go with default values. So if it is nil, use 0 divided by 1. Okay, the way I fixed that part was, actually this is a bit more complex, because this itself is an optional and then a value inside it is an optional. So what I did was, I'm going to show it to you and you will see. Over here, I defined another published property in our model called data obtained. So if the data is obtained, then only it does the calculation. So there is no division by nil. Otherwise, it just displays a 0. So that was the problem I did mention when we were building this code, that you may run into this. And if you run it 2 or 3 times, you may see that sometimes it will work with that same code if the network call gets finished before it's building this. So we're out of time, guys. Do you want to finish this? It may take another 2-3 minutes and we'll build that logic into it.
Yeah, I have time.
How about Harry and Hamza?
Yeah, let's
Okay,
finish this. I'm good. Yeah.
Yeah,
5
sure.
minutes to wrap this up. Are you guys okay?
Yeah, cool. No problem.
Okay. So what we want is, see, because what it is saying now is unexpectedly found nil, right? While unwrapping. Because the network call has not finished while it is trying to build this view. So this is another thing, another trick you can use from time to time, which is within these views, you can do conditional statements. You can do checks. And how do you do that? So in our model, let's publish another value, data obtained. We'll initialize it to false, right? So data obtained is false. And once, so add this line, published variable data obtained, boolean initialized to false. And when our data is actually obtained here, when this for loop finishes, we can change data obtained to true. So this tells us before we do anything with any numbers, anything like that, we can check whether the data was actually obtained or not. And in the content view, using the same thing now, when we are building, see, this here is an expression, right? A Swift expression that gets calculated on at the time, at runtime. So here we can check that the currency data model object, if the data obtained property, if it's true, then do this first part. Otherwise, just display 0. Oops, I have an extra something going on here. Okay, this closing bracket needs to be at the end of your expression. Ah, my bad. This should be a colon. So if this is our condition, this you're familiar with this syntax, right? Question mark, and then two options separated by the colon. So if it's true, it does the first one. If it's false, it does the second one. And this error, don't worry, it's here because of the runtime error we got in the previous run. When we run it again, this time that number gets initialized to 0 when there is no information. And then it displays. And I have got it backwards here. It should be to currency divided by from currency. I typed it wrong. Okay, that's it. That will finish this one. So now see it's doing USD to CAD. As you keep changing, because of the binding of the state, the state variables to and from currency, because we have bound them, Swift UI knows that it needs to recalculate the value, the text that goes inside this text objects, and it uses whatever you have specified here for that purpose. So you're all getting this now? This much is working?
Yes,
Yeah,
it's
my
working
is
for me.
okay.
Okay.
Yes.
So, okay, good, good. Wonderful. So I just, this, as you can see, this was somewhat complicated to accomplish using the combine framework. There is a lot of things that are not very intuitive and obvious to you, especially if you have done it some other ways, using your, handlers, explicitly calling the handler to do things. Because a lot of this happens in the background. You need to sort of adapt to this way of working.
So why we didn't use the dispatch main queue? I remember when you were telling Harry.
Yeah, so dispatch main queue is sort of a workaround. It is not the preferred way of doing it, and I don't know the technical reasons for it, why they recommend not using it. So when you were getting that error, right, Shahrukh, this part we added.
Yeah.
One way to avoid that would have been to put this, some part of this, wherever the publishing is happening, in the dispatch main queue. That would have, done that, but somehow that is not the recommended. I don't know exactly why. And maybe there is some information in one of the pages that I had open. I cannot remember now which one it was. The one that is from Apple developers. The code where the place where we got that line from, that receive on. So it is not recommended for whatever reason, Shahrukh.
Okay.
Yeah. If you if you are curious, find out more why we don't want to use that
Yes,
and
sure.
share with us. So that will do the job. It's no doubt it will do the job if you put that on the main queue. Maybe it's cleaner. I have no idea exactly why. Okay, so are you guys clear about the how the whole thing ties up? Like, if I were to recap, I would just say that we created an observable object. We published these properties. And then within this, we needed to use a publisher and a cancelable, and you must have a reference to this. If you don't do this, you will see that your request will not get executed. Feel free to try this. Delete this line and delete this much and run and see what happens. And this mechanism, observable and publishing, it takes it in, because we are observing this object with this attribute observed object. It allows us to make changes here whenever some change happens there. And this state variable from and to currency we specified here as the selection. So this created the two-way binding, the $sign and the state attribute. So whenever we change a selection here, it is reflected over here in these things. And also it gives us an initial value from whatever we chose here. Okay. Questions? Any other questions? Okay. So I think we'll stop here. And Harry, you said you had something. You can stay back if you like, and we can look at what you wanted to show.
Yeah, sure.
All right, guys. Otherwise, the class is finished. I'll see you guys on Monday. You have your Android midterm on Monday.
So, question about midterm. Is it the just gonna be all the stuff we did, like the combination of the notifications and stuff, or is it gonna be just like one topic?
I'm not sure if it's going to be all the things. It may be too much to finish in 3 hours.
Yeah,
It
because
may
I'm trying to think
be.
like if I have to like set up notifications again, like
Oh, no,
sometimes
the push notifications I will not ask you to set up.
okay.
Yeah, because that is too involved. It requires other access, and not everybody
Yeah, because it's
maybe.
dependent on Firebase as well. Sometimes it doesn't connect properly.
Yeah. So we'll keep it a little bit simpler. You
Okay.
can expect multiple topics to be asked, but not all of them.
Okay.
All right.